This is my Harbor Freight trailer build that I made for a rooftop tent setup. And I just want to show you a couple of things that I did. Hopefully it inspires you to do something similar. Of course, it's a regular 4-lug Harbor Freight trailer. I left the tires, axles, frame all stock. I did add, things like this Hallmaster jack wheel there on the tongue. That's super handy. But the main thing I wanted to show was some of the little additions I've made that are a little less usual and make this trailer a little more custom. Like this eyelets that we put in instead of bolts. So we have eyelets on the little fence frame retainer guys here. So we have 8 eyelets on this one. Super easy to hook up straps and bungees and the net, all that stuff. Then of course I have here Red Hound stabilizer jacks. So I've got 4 of these. These are super easy to set up, just like that. I got 2 that basically come right underneath the forward frame rail of the rooftop tent. I have 2 more on the rear. Those flip out in this manner, just like that. Those are super handy. See the eyelets. Of course, I added these wooden gates to retain all the cargo that we put in here. We have decking here, 3/4 inch plywood. If I did this over, I would get lighter weight wood. This is way overkill for what I'm doing. All these planks and the 2x4s for the little retainer fence here are all treated plywood. So a lot of that stuff wasn't too cheap, but it's doing the job. Like it so far. Here we have the Buyers Products 36-inch tongue box. This thing is super beefy. I love it. Honestly, it's poly, it's type of plastic, but it's big. It's sturdy. It's awesome. Holding all my, there's my bungee net, straps, bungees, first aid, fans for the rooftop tent, dog leashes, dog food, whatever. When I get to the campground, I'll throw my jacket in there sometimes if I need to just put it somewhere I can find it really fast. Shoes. Obviously you could lock this, but I don't have anything in there that's irreplaceable, so I just use a carabiner. Also added floodlights on the front and back. So I have the one here and one here. So these are just like off-road style floodlights. Not a big deal, but they're super helpful when you're setting up, tearing down. Underneath here I've run LED lights. So I have a strip on each side. So the awesome thing about these LED strips is that it's like indirect lighting. So the trailer is super perfectly lit without it shining in your eyes when you're camping. You know how when you're camping it's all dark everywhere and then you have one light on, it's like so bright. But these are perfect, great ambient light. They're not obtrusive, not gonna bother the neighbors. Whereas we just use these for setting up and then we turn them off because that's a whole different level of intensity. Then of course the most important part of my build is this welded rack for the rooftop tent. And my neighbor is a welder and he helped me out with this. It's actually very simple in design, so it's not that you have to have a ton of skill. I just wasn't familiar enough with welding to even consider doing it myself, but it just took him, just literally just a few minutes of measuring and a few minutes of welding and the rack was done. So there's 2 hoops basically, rear and front. So this one here, so this one here going up and over, and these are, and then the rear one going here. So that's kind of the main, those are what get bolted to the frame. So we're reusing frame holes that were already present in this Harbor Freight design. So the 2 frame holes here are what you would put this super lightweight bracket on. I don't know why they had 2, maybe just to keep it from shifting. And I ended up using just a 1, and it's super tight, but it can't move anyway because of the right angle there. It's stuck in place. Obviously, see, I've had to zip tie that guy. So both of these are just angle iron. They're super thick. I don't know how thick this is. It's gotta be an 1/8 inch. It's something pretty stout. So here you can see this is vertically aligned with the tube, and then these rear ones, the tube is welded to the right angle. So this is just angle iron here as well. So a little different for the rear versus the front. So then these go up, obviously go across. So the reason I have this design here with this lower bar on these is because I love to surf, and I have large longboards, and I have a bunch of kids. So if we stack up a couple surfboards, I'd much rather have them back here than on my vehicle while traveling. This is super easy. That and in use, it's actually the easiest thing to load because it's not dependent on anything else. I just put my surfboard here. If I have less than 3, I can stack 3. 1, 2, 3. This is about 6 feet from this bar to this bar. Obviously, that's pretty long if you are a shortboarder. If you're a longboarder like me, or you like mid-lengths, obviously easily over 7.5, 8, 9, or in my case 10 feet. love my big longboard. So there you have it. That's the point of that part of the design. I'm actually thinking about rigging up another set of bars going this way that I can put like a roof cargo basket on, just to have more stuff. Carry more stuff, that's the goal. Okay. And then here you can see the crossbars running front to back that connect. So these two A-frames here, front A, rear A, and they are connected by these 2 crossbars that run this way. You can see the other ones over there. And those are 38 inches apart from here to here, 38 inches. And these bars are exactly 48 inches. So it sits exactly at the edge of the trailer frame, of course. And that trailer frame is 48 inches wide. So this gap between this bar and this bar is 48 inches. And this is 44 1/8 above the deck. And then 51 inches from the bottom of this to the top of this point. And then inside of these are 38-inch bars. There's 3 of them going left to right or side to side. And that's what makes it rigid, of course, and also what mounts the rooftop tent. So here, this is the rooftop tent track. These are the brackets that hold the rooftop tent. There are 4 brackets, and then it has this middle one for extra support, but it's not attached to the tent. So we have 3 crossbars basically going side to side, and this thing's super rigid. Like, honestly, it's the tubing is 1.5 by 1, with the exception of these cross pieces. So these ones are square, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. And then these are actually 1.5 by 1s. So those are sturdy, very, very, very sturdy. Everything about this is very rigid now that it's welded up. I haven't welded the frame. It's original. Still, in theory, if I unbolted all 4 of these connections here to the rooftop tent frame, I could still fold this trailer. That stuff's still in place. So I did take off the casters since I'm not planning to fold this up and don't need to use those, but I did leave the bracket there. I was thinking I might mount something to it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Maybe I'll just cut those off. Who knows? Eventually I'm gonna weld that stuff up so it's just rigid, because I'm never gonna fold it. I don't live in a place where I need to fold it. I don't need the storage space like that. Fortunately, I'm grateful for that, but You know, if you lived somewhere with and you were tight on space for storage or garage space, in theory you could unbolt these 4 legs of this rooftop tent rack. It would be 6 bolts the way I have it rigged up. So there's 1, 2, then 1 on the front, and then obviously there's 2 sides, so that would be 6. So I'm reusing all bolts that already existed. So this is just part of the frame here. You can see that. I'm actually even using the original bolts. I didn't even have to get longer bolts, so that's cool. Same with these guys. These are all original. One of my favorite additions was the little plastic end caps. I think I paid, I don't know, $5 for 10 or something. And they're super cheap, but they make this look way more finished with the tubing capped off there. So I did rattle can this myself. You can probably tell. Don't take that out on my neighbor. Didn't do much to clean it up beforehand, just kind of painted it because we were out taking off on a trip. It's good enough for now. I'm very happy with it. It's been awesome. The tent is very stable on there. Obviously, once I put the 4 stabilizer legs down and crank them tight, man, this thing's super great. Doesn't feel like too floppy, even though the trailer itself is pretty light. This tent is the Smittybilt Gen 2 XL size, so it's a big tent. It's 48 inches on the narrow side when it's closed, and then that becomes 96 inches, and front to back is 72 inches. So all in all, it's a pretty beefy setup for how lightweight of a rig it is. So I weighed this. It was 600 pounds as it sits right now, like just as you see it, with just the tent, obviously the wooden sides, and then that included that stuff I have in my trailer box. 600 pounds all in. I can still lift it if I need to with one hand. Can move it obviously on a flat surface. It's really easy to move with the little front wheel there. So very happy with that. It's just really simple. So one of the reasons I designed it the way I did was for the lightweight. I wanted to be able to tow it basically with just like a regular vehicle, not needing my 1-ton van. With this setup, I've done about 2,000 miles with the tent, 2 different trips, and no problem. It's super easy on the highway. We could do full interstate speeds in the left lane, no problem. And I can't wait to use this with my Chevy van. That'll be perfect. I will not even feel the weight. Towing with that van will be super easy. My dad and I had a lot of back and forth about whether or not the 4-lug, 1,200 pound version of this trailer would be sufficient. He got the 5-lug, 1,795 pound, 1,800 pound version. I probably do come close to 1,000 pounds of stuff once I, if you calculate the weight of the rack and the tent's stayed at 135 pounds, and the rack obviously is pretty beefy as well. I'm not sure the exact weight of that by itself, just the frame, but I've obviously added other parts, so that's all going into that 1,200 pound number. I had experience with the 4-lug version. I bought one used some years back, and we used it on one trip. I think it was probably about a 1,200 mile trip going around the southwest of the US, and it was great. And we were on some pretty rugged areas. We were off paved roads in Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and we had no problem with it. So I wasn't concerned about getting the 4-lug one because I had positive experience with that, even in pretty adverse conditions. So so far, so good. Like I said, we just did about a 1,700 mile, 1,750 mile round trip down the east coast of the U.S. and it was all on paved roads, all highway mileage, basically. So, like I said, at good speeds, no issues. I mean, I should say the only issues I had were losing little nuts off of things like this light, but you know, nothing a zip tie can't fix. Another light up here in the front kind of had the same issue. It's got a zip tie now. But other than that, the trailer drove great, you know, being as it was pulled, obviously, and even better camping. So I really enjoyed it. The light setup works great. We just add a little battery power station, which you'll see here in this video, that I hook up to these guys. All this wiring is just to the lights, and it's just extra because I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to set up the power station, and I just did that. Zipped it up there for the trip. Same here. You can see I have my zip ties holding these wires up, but that's just simple stuff that over time I'm just going to kind of settle in on where things are going to be, and then I'm going to cut them to the right length and make it more permanent. But so far, super good. You know, just a matter of settling on things. That was our first big trip with this, but we had done a smaller trip to the lake not so far away, just one state over. So that would probably make this about a $2,500 build with everything you see, and that's fairly reasonable for something that can sleep 5 people and a dog, and haul all their stuff, including water toys and bikes and so on, and be towed behind, you know, just about any vehicle. I think with the welding, my neighbor said it would cost about $600 for the material and the labor. He helped me out. So if you're in the Mid-Atlantic region and you want some of these bars fabricated like this, reach out and I'll hook you up with him. If you're looking for a value proposition, this is a great cost benefit ROI. I'm really happy with it. I know you can get, you know, maybe better built or pre-built trailers versus the Harbor Freight, but this one was in reach for me and has been working perfect. So this build, of course, could be done on different types of trailers, different size trailers, but all that to say, I'm loving it. Can't wait to take the next trip. So hope you enjoyed that and got inspired to do something similar with the build or the Harbor Freight trailer. If you're interested in other aspects of this build, like specifically about the tent, I've got some videos about that. So check back for more and subscribe, like, blah, blah, blah. But most of all, I hope this helps, and thanks for watching.